Welcome in. I'm got myself another beer. Hopefully you have a drink with you on this wonderful Saturday night. Utah Jazz win 5 games in a row, friends, and they are against good opponents, some at home, some on the road. I'm immediately like, is it 5 games in a row? Whenever I drop a casual stat, I'm like, well, I got to verify. But it's in any event, it's the Jazz are on a hell of a streak here. I think they're 12-3 in their last 15 games. I got my friend. Normally I'm drinking 8, 9, 10, 11, 12% beers, and now I got a little baby 5% beer today, 4.8% to be fair. It's a nice little delicious porter. I love porters. Are probably one of my favorite styles of beer to drink. And normally they clock in around 6 or 7%. And this nice little 5% coconut porter is nice. I drink pretty heavily last night, so this is kind of like a nice little, end the evening, celebrate, get a win, enjoy that sort of thing. So I'm trying to figure out exactly where I was trying to verify that 5-game win streak. Yes, 5 games in a row. 8-1 in their last 9. Yeah, 3-6, 11-2 in their last 13 games. This is incredible. Wins against the Raptors twice, the Heat, the Mavericks. Big blowout loss at the Celtics, but then we followed it up on a back-to-back to beat the Sixers. They didn't have Embiid, but that no matter. Still a good team on the road on a back-to-back. Beating the Bucks on the road. They had Antetokounmpo. Beat the Nuggets at home. And a lot of these are sound wins. 16-point win against the Bucks, 11-point win against the Sixers, 13-point win against the Nuggets, blowout win against the Raptors. And this Lakers game, it started out very much in the Lakers' favor, and the Lakers had a double-digit lead in the second quarter. But Utah eventually closed this one completely out. And it really wasn't threatening starting in about the end of the third, early fourth. I mean, when you have a 10, 12, 14-point lead, that's nothing in the NBA. And teams can easily come back from that. It's not terribly threatening, but it does show that you can start to put your thumb on the scale a little bit and force the Lakers to make difficult decisions. So let's talk about it. There's some interesting negatives to take away today, too. I mean, Utah is playing fantastic basketball, but I mean, maybe it's just the pessimist Jazz fan in me. But there just seem to be some cracks and creaks a little bit around the edges, and I do start to wonder about it just a little. But we will talk about it in earnest after we talk about the good stuff, because I can't be that despondent all the time. So we'll set up our chat here. Welcome in, everybody. Cocoon, great to have you on a back-to-back here. Always good to beat the Lakers. I completely agree with that one. So if you are here on YouTube, love to have you. I think we got a little bit of delay on YouTube by about 30 seconds, I think. But if you drop your comments and chats, I will get them, and we'll get back there. So game ball today is kind of hard to parse out, but I think it has to go to Lauri Markkanen. Colin Sexton had an amazing game today. Well, I have lots to say about what he was able to do today, but Lauri Markkanen was, I think, very, very good defensively. 0 fouls in a game where the Lakers are going to draw a lot of fouls. That is the Lakers game. Whether it's deserved or not, they definitely they earn a lot of free throws. They probably don't earn some of the free throws they get, but they definitely earn a lot of free throws. And for Lauri to have 0 fouls in a game like today was great. Plus 16 in a game that they won by 7. You see the minuses down below. It was really the Olynyk Kessler lineups against the Lakers bench. Usually strengths for Utah, right? When we're able to kind of put out Olynyk and Kessler off the bench against poor bench lineups for other teams, they're usually positive players. Walker Kessler is a resounding positive player But it was the starters that really did it. John Collins had a wonderful game today, probably his best game as a Utah Jazz man. Great defensively. I don't think all of his 5 fouls were particularly earned, but he played well defensively, especially because Collins and Markkanen were tasked with a difficult doubling scheme against Anthony Davis. They were the ones who were primarily charged with doing that. Based on how the Jazz kind of laid out their defense, they were providing forward help from the other forward or from the small forward position. It wasn't like the game against the Bucks where the doubling against Giannis was occurring from the guard rotations. And it's really just how the spacing on the floor is and where the guy you're trying to double is catching it from. Same thing against Jokic. Like, it was different players were providing the help, and today it was from the forward spots. I think Collins and Markkanen did a great job. Sexton played within himself. It's yet another game where Colin Sexton is, and Andy Larson wrote a fantastic article kind of summarizing our thoughts on him. I think Colin Sexton is now no longer just one speed go. Like, he's very, 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 very good at that. But what is changing Colin Sexton from a guy you're fine to have within your rotation off the bench as a scorer, as a 12 to 16 point off the bench scorer, into a starting level, like, holy shit, that guy's scoring 27 and it wasn't difficult, is his ability to change tempo. And when you are a Ferrari of an athlete, you think about just racing in general. If you're a fan of racing, sometimes it's not about how fast you are on the straightaways and how quickly you can get up to 200, 210, 220 miles an hour. Sometimes it has to do with how can you brake on that hairpin turn, and it's and timing of those brakes. And if you can push your car to go as fast as possible and brake at the last possible second, that's where you're beating your opponents to the corner and getting those advantages. And Colin Sexton is varying his speeds. He's picking and choosing when to go fast, when to go a little slower, and keep his defenders off balance. And so he's got this physicality. Sexton's always had this, but his ability to, like, just manhandle the basketball and get in the thicket of trees of players much taller than him and swing his arms around and draw contact. If he's just barreling in full speed, he's not able to draw the foul whistles, because it just kind of looks like he's a little out of control and he's just kind of throwing stuff up there. But he's forcing his defenders to be on their heels way, way more because of his change in direction and his change of speed. And so now he's getting these thicket of trees with guys who are off balance. Their arms are over, their arms aren't straight up. And so he's drawing a ton of real contact by players who aren't in legal guarding position. Whereas before, he's just careening into the paint against players who are in legal guarding position and not drawing that contact. Also, when players are kind of reacting to his change of tempo, he's still not an advanced passer and vision guy. I do see he still has a lot of, like, headwind, like, blinders on drives, but with forcing defenses to kind of not able to collapse immediately on him by providing this change in tempo, the easy passes are much more visible. He's dealing with a lot less contact in the paint because now it's not 2 or 3 guys just barreling down on him. He's able to time his drives and time his change of direction so that he's going against one, maybe 1.5, a half help guy, where he makes those really easy passes. I've never gotten a vibe from Colin Sexton that he was an unwilling passer. I legitimately think like he just can't see it. And it could be like a, Drew Brees, 5'10" quarterback kind of thing, where sometimes you just can't see it. And he doesn't have that innate basketball IQ to kind of know where a guy is definitely going to be regardless and just make a blind pass. Nor am I really expecting to ever really get there. He's terrific with the change of direction these days. Team high, plus 18 for him. Team high, plus 18 for John Collins. This might have been each of their respective best games as a Jazz fan for both of them. But Lauri Markkanen, this might have been one of his top 10 games ever as a Jazz man himself. 29 and 10, no fouls, 5 assists. Lauri Markkanen's assists, guys, they're ticking up. He's averaging fewer assists than he did last year. That is for sure. But I think his recent games, like normally he's sitting around 1 or 0 assists, and he's getting several assists lately. There was a game against Milwaukee where he was making several passes that were not getting converted into buckets. I think he could have had more than 2 assists here. But I think he definitely has an uptick of assists. 1.9 is more assists than he had last year. And I think he's on the rise, and his passing was great today. Helps when the guys make shots out of it too. Getting 11 free throw attempts, like Lauri Markkanen is a guy where he should always be minimum 8 free throw attempts, I think. And 11 free throw attempts, one of them was a technical, so call it 10, 5 total trips to the line. I don't think he had an and one today. No fouls, no turnovers. Like, that's a stellar performance from him. And he gets my personal game ball. But I will never. I don't think you can pick out if somebody says Collins or if somebody says Sexton. Clarkson, another wonderful game off the bench, 21 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Competent, love his defense today. I thought Clarkson's defense was entirely adequate today. I think anyone, I just think the Jazz get a ton of, I know LeBron didn't play today, and he's a source of drawing fouls, but playing against Anthony Davis and Austin Reeves, total foul drawing merchants. And for the guys to have posting up limited fouls as they did, I think is really impressive. Let's see here. Just scrolling to look at the free throw counts. Davis only shooting 6 free throws. Reeves only shooting 6 free throws. That's outstanding work. Also 5 of 21 for Anthony Davis. We'll get into that. I mean, the defense by Markkanen and Collins is a big reason for this. Constantly throwing a ton of bodies at him. 6 turnovers. Davis does get the triple-double. They ran everything through him, and he was making wonderful passes to D'Angelo Russell, who put up 39 because he couldn't miss from anywhere, but, it was also their only source of offense. The defense against Davis was great. So love what the starters did. Fontecchio, he didn't Keontae George, he had 19. He really had it going. He drew 3 trips to the line. Keontae George had it going offensively and was adequate defensively. No fouls for Keontae, but he definitely had a couple, iffy defensive moments. And the Jazz closed with a 3-guard lineup of Sexton, Clarkson, and Keontae George in lieu of Fontecchio. And I just wonder if that's just like results-based thinking, because I really thought Fontecchio's defense was quite good. He had a couple bad fouls early, but then calmed down. He missed all of the shots, and I just don't think he had bad process today, though. But I can't quibble with going with the guy who got you there, and Hardy's going to be pretty. Will Hardy's been very consistent that the guys who are closing are going to be the guys who have it. Like, he's not hesitant to not play John Collins to close a game. He doesn't close Jordan Clarkson if Jordan Clarkson doesn't have it going. But when it comes to guys like Jordan Clarkson, he's not going to mind. He'll shoot the next one. He's fine. But I do wonder if that can get in some guys' heads who are a little bit younger, who have less experience in the league, and that guys like Fontecchio or Keontae George will start pressing, right? And if they're pressing, then because they're worried about if they're going to make the shot, then that affects their process. You have to care about process more than you care about results, especially at this stage of development. T-Money says the Lakers also went small towards the end. And that's certainly a factor, but it's going small. I think it was they lost Cam Reddish to a knee injury middle of the game. Austin Reeves fouled out towards the end, but they went to the 3-guard lineup fairly early. So they were dealing with Skylar Mays, formerly starting point guard of the Portland Trailblazers earlier this season. He closed the game when Reeves couldn't go, so you were dealing with a lineup of Mays. They closed with Vanderbilt, right? So it was Mays, Vanderbilt, Russell, Prince, and Davis. That's a pretty adequately sized lineup. I mean, Russell and Mays in the backcourt is pretty small, but adding it was, Torian Prince and Jordan Clarkson were matched up a little bit. But like to your point, like the Lakers weren't so big that you couldn't afford to do the 3-guard lineup, and it's not like Fontecchio was a burly dude, and he's definitely forward sized, but he's not. He doesn't have like that fuck you physicality that you're losing something by playing the hotter Keontae George to close it. I'm being kind of weirdly picky about it just because I want to make sure that we're following the right process with closing it. Because like yesterday against the Raptors, Will Hardy did a lot of Clarkson and Sexton lineups, which just hasn't been very frequent. And again, it happened tonight. It kind of because he likes to keep Sexton and Dunn together, and Keontae and Jordan Clarkson together. And I thought Dunn was really impactful yesterday. Dunn was less impactful today, but he was still quite impactful. And I was surprised to see Dunn not get back into the game yesterday against the Raptors. So I just want to make sure that the rotation is. I'm okay rewarding the guys who are making the shots. I mean, that's basketball. But I don't want guys to get too in their. I don't want guys to get too in their head. Is all about those decisions. So I thought Tech played pretty decently. He just didn't make the shots, and that's why I'm worried about process versus results. Because Fontecchio was a +16 today, and Keontae George was a -6. Like Keontae George was making his shots, but was he affecting winning? And what are we actually rewarding out there? It doesn't matter. Keontae's a rookie, and I loved watching him play. Loved his buckets today. Just an absolute delight to watch him figure out the NBA. Loved it today. Kelly Olynyk had a miserable game. He had a couple ghastly turnovers, bad decisions, couldn't make a bucket. Walker Kessler, I couldn't even tell if he played today. He bit on a horrible pump fake by Anthony Davis. He did flush down an alley-oop pass from Keontae that was really beautiful, but he was out of his element defensively today. Just completely in the wrong place at the wrong times pretty much the entirety of his 14 minutes that I didn't miss him out there. Like John Collins was more active and more efficient. Kessler even bricked both his free throws. Kessler needs to see a psychiatrist, man. Like he's not playing the game with the same joy he played with last year. And we saw from the jump this season that he really was not playing with, I was just going to say T-Money. I was just about to say we saw it from the jump this season. And I can't help but wonder if that FIBA experience just completely ruined Walker Kessler for this season. And I hope he gets invited to the FIBA camp for the Olympics. Right, he's not going to make the final team or anything, but I hope he gets invited to that camp so he's playing alongside some wonderful players and kind of rejiggers that joy a little bit because he is not playing with joy right now. He's not playing with anticipation. He's not playing with. I mean, it's not 100% of the time. I thought his reactivity in the zone defense last night was terrific. He was wonderful against the Raptors yesterday. Didn't play a ton of minutes, but his reactions were really, really, really good yesterday. And today he was so slow and not reactive to things. He did have a nice block. He's not always all bad. Walker Kessler is never going to be unplayable. He finished second in Rookie of the Year last year for a reason. He's a very, very, very good basketball player. But when you start what we care about with Walker Kessler is not what he did in an individual basketball game. With Walker Kessler, it's a different story analyzing him versus a guy like John Collins. With Walker Kessler, you're wondering, okay, what is he going to be? What is he going to be on the next championship Jazz squad? Is he the next Rudy Gobert? He's in the running for Defensive Player of the Year, or is he Ivica Zubac? Right? Is he Marcin Gortat? Because last year when he started doing pretty well as a rookie and looked pretty nice, I was like, all right, he reminds me a lot of Marcin Gortat. Very reliable, sturdy center who set nasty screens, who was a great post defender. The Gortat screen is now a play that big men rely on when the players drive into the hoop and you kind of screen him. You screen their man like kind of underneath the hoop, and it kind of gives an easy bucket. So I love the Gortat screen. That's kind of who Kessler reminded me of. But then Kessler started figuring out a lot of things defensively last year that led to him being otherworldly protecting the paint, and his defensive rating was through the roof, or under the basement, which is where you want your defensive rating, right? And that kind of changed our trajectory of Walker Kessler. And then it's games like tonight where it's like he's getting a very deserved 14 minutes, and you're like, okay, he's got a nice career ahead of him, but is he a $40 million a year player, or is he a $15 million a year player? Those are very, 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 very important questions to figure out. If you're giving Markkanen his extension this summer, and you're starting to figure out your salary slots under the new salary cap, under the new TV deal, and like, what is this team really going to look like? It's big questions for that. And I really hope that Steve Kerr didn't mess him up over the summer. Boy, I mean, combined with the Warriors over the past 2 years and the FIBA fuck up this summer, Steve Kerr's star has lost a lot of shine. And I really hope he didn't fuck up our boy. But some of this does fall on Kessler, though. It can't be all on just like coaching, right? Like, he's got a great coach with him now. There's only so much pouting or just like dejection you can have after a bad play. Like, sure, Anthony Davis got him on a pump fake. A future Hall of Fame player got him on a pump fake. Get over it. Next play. Right? And I think that's sometimes it's a little annoying to watch. And you're right, Team Money. I think we talk about the trajectory from last year was so enticing. And like, yeah, it gets scary when you're thinking like, all right, he's gonna be alongside Markkanen. Those are gonna be $40 to $50 million a year players. Those are our 10 poles. We got to build around them. And it's not necessarily a bad thing that he might turn out to be like a pretty good starter instead of an all-star, right? Because it kind of opens up other options for what you can do with your money under the salary cap. But in general, we're going to be following his trajectory to see if this guy is an all-star or if he's just Walker Kessler. It's fine. Baji had some nice defensive moments today. His one bucket was an alley-oop slam that from Olynyk that was really pretty to watch. Great performance. Loved watching it. Struggled quite a bit defensively to start, in part because they were doing that aggressive doubling on Anthony Davis, kind of freeing up the passes to D'Angelo Russell. The Jazz, their doubling rotation was actually really, really good, and I thought quite reactive and fast. And they were forcing Anthony Davis to pass. And once they forced Anthony Davis to make one difficult pass, Davis was able to do it, and either the rotation was just a hair slow enough for a skilled shooter like D'Angelo Russell to get off a good shot. It wasn't a bad rotation, but it wasn't good either. And if a good shooter is going to get off pretty easy shots that way, which he did, or if it wasn't that first pass, then the next pass over was wide open. And that's how Austin Reeves kind of got a few of his buckets early. Torian Prince had a 3-point shot early from that. And that's how you end up with Davis having 11 assists. 39 points for the Lakers in the first quarter. They'll look back at the tape and see a lot of defensive areas they were able to clean up. And then Utah, they don't kind of come back with the bench unit coming in with Kessler and Olynyk. They come back with the starters to finish that to finish that out. So the starters, when they kind of came back in to finish the second quarter is when they started to turn it on a bit. Jordan Clarkson, I think, finished the second quarter over Chris Dunn, as is usual. It's just what happens in the fourth quarter. And then the starters really took it to the Lakers in the start of the third quarter. It's kind of how that game script went. That first quarter was quite interesting. as far as like the defensive strategy to double Davis and kind of the passes they were able to get out of that. But and the doubles were interesting because very rarely did they put that double team on Anthony Davis. First of all, they were very quick at putting that on. Like they did not wait on doing those double teams. It was very quick. Love seeing it. But Markkanen or Collins, they're not swipers, and they weren't trying to dislodge the ball from Davis. They were just trying to get him to make difficult passes. And I think Davis is too good of a player to just kind of let him do it. He's not Nikola Jokic as a passer. He's not LeBron James as a passer. But he's definitely had 10 assist games before. He's a skilled dribbler, skilled passer, and he was able to kind of get it going. They kept the strategy going later, but as Davis got more tired, he was throwing worse passes. And those passes weren't necessarily turnovers, but instead of being pinpoint passes to Russell that he can get up a quick shot, they were passes that Utah could easily rotate into. So interesting strategy. We'll kind of see what happens next. Utah got through some of their toughest games on the 6-game homestand. They got the Pacers without Halliburton up next. Got 3 more home games in a row. Look at all these L's in the beginning of the season. Look at this miserable fucking start, 2-7. And now the Jazz have a better record this year than they did last year. Bron owns your mom. Welcome in. Lakers fan, I presume. Tough loss for you. And as someone who likes the Lakers to be good, because it makes for better television, I hope the Lakers get a little bit better. Big LeBron fan over here. And we finish out with Golden State and Oklahoma City. And I said, regardless of what happens, and I said this after the Milwaukee game, or was it the Denver game? One of these great wins against the Bucks or the Nuggets. I said, it's not going to be the Toronto Laker, Pacers, or Warriors game that is going to determine kind of what we think about this Jazz team. It's going to be this game against Oklahoma City, home game against the Thunder. Yes, on the second game of a back-to-back, so the fatigue I'm a little concerned about. But against a top-tier opponent at the end of a long homestand, it's possible they could just not show up. Like, we've seen a lot of teams at the end of a long homestand just kind of say, well, we got a 6-game road trip or a 7-game road, 6-game road trip after this. We're going to Houston tomorrow morning. We should probably we might not have the energy, especially after chasing Stephen Curry around in Golden State. And Draymond Green will probably be back by Wednesday to punch a Jazz player in the nuts somewhere. So we'll see what happens there. That's the game I'm most looking forward to on Thursday. And of course, I'm not doing a postcast for it because I can't do Thursdays, but we will do Monday and Wednesday. Maybe we'll do the game as we're watching. But yeah, and yeah, T-Money with Kessler, it's like when Steve Kerr tells you to ride the pine is tough to process. And it's not even just like telling you to ride the pine. I think what we were all screaming at during FIBA play is Team USA was struggling with interior defense and rebounding because Jaren Jackson Jr. was the starting center and he was getting all those minutes. They couldn't rebound for shit. And his interior defense, he's more of he was Defensive Player of the Year last year for a good reason, and he's a great shot blocker, but he doesn't have that classic center defense that you kind of need in FIBA sometimes against these big, burly offensive players. And we're like, Walker Kessler's the answer. He fits the bill. He is the answer. And for him to just still not get minutes, it was like, what is wrong? Something's wrong with him. And then he would get on the floor and like make a small mistake and get subbed out. Or more often just didn't play. So interesting to see the Jazz schedule here coming up. Fun little January they got going on. We'll finish with the cleaning the glass stats, see if they notice anything to talk about from the 4 factors here. I don't think we'll do a bounce around on the Saturday night. We'll let everyone get to their evening. There's no other games going on right now, right? Big night for Kansas City. Everyone saw that one coming. Yeah, all the games are over. This was the last game tonight. Great defensive rebounding effort from Utah, only letting the Lakers get 19% offensive rebounds, especially with Jared Vanderbilt getting 23, 24 minutes. Vanderbilt, as we know, great offensive rebounder. He got one really good one, couldn't do it. Utah, the whistle was even today. I was saying it during the game. A lot of credit goes to Utah for kind of putting the pressure on the whistle here. Credit to the Raptors coach of Darko to kind of force all officials to kind of, like, we're definitely in the honeymoon period of the Lakers maybe having more attention on their whistle. And we had a few Austin Reeves bump and shoot fouls that are total bullshit. But Colin Sexton had one of those tonight. Jordan Clarkson had one of those tonight. And I'd like for none of those to be called. It would make for cleaner basketball. I just because it helped my team doesn't mean I don't think it's bullshit. Like, those are bad fouls. Just because you run into a guy and hoist a ball up, like, that's not a shooting foul. If you want to say it's a blocking foul, all right, not a shooting foul, blocking foul, move the ball on. So Utah's free throw rate, amazing tonight, just absolutely getting to the line all the time. Credit goes to Markin and Sexton. And it's like, when you look at, if you have weird players, if we look at the box score again, if you have unusual players drawing free throws that they don't normally get, or you have someone like Lowry Marketing getting 18 free throws, maybe the whistle is a little funny. Clarkson getting 8 free throws, that's a little funny. Like I said, he got a couple cute ones. Sexton getting 10 free throws, that's a little aggressive. Like, he's a good foul drawer, but he's not 10 free throws. So Utah definitely forced the issue a little bit. All of Keontae's were earned. He really fought hard to draw contact there. And like, there's a reason Reeves fouled out. Reeves is a very handsy defender that gets away with a lot of stuff. And if he has fouls to give, he's a pretty decent defender. But like Dylan Brooks, like, he's a very handsy defender. And he bitches and moans all the time. And because Reeves has a reputation of bitching and moaning all the time, he never gets technical fouls called on him. So great free throw drawing from Utah today. Protected the basketball. That's a great turnover percentage. What's their total turnovers tonight? Only 10 turnovers? Am I reading? 10 turnovers is terrific compared to where we were earlier in the season. Oh, guess who didn't play? Talen Horton-Tucker. Utah now moves to 11-0. Utah Jazz are undefeated, 11-0, when Talen Horton-Tucker doesn't play basketball. Who would have thought? 10 turnovers tonight. I'm not going to get too upset about the effective field goal percentage there. I thought they were just a little cold from 3. Only 34% from 3 today. Lakers only 29% from 3 today, but a lot of poor shooters were shooting those threes, like Christian Wood. Taurean Prince is only okay at threes. Anthony Davis bricked 1, maybe even 2. Both teams hot from mid-range. Or I'm sorry, this is frequency. I was looking at accuracy. Lakers had a quite normal 3-point shooting night tonight, a little above average, 43%. That credit goes to D'Angelo Russell. But what this means is both teams were forcing teams to shoot a lot of mid-range shots, and Utah definitely has quality mid-range shooters there, as do the Lakers. I think, like, Davis had a very poor game, but D'Angelo Russell is very credited as far as a 3-level scorer. Okay, I'm not going to analyze too much about transition stats, and I kind of do that the next day. That's all I got, friends. Money says, I think THT throws everyone out of their roles. I never heard it described that way. And I think I struggle to find words sometimes to describe what is so unappealing about watching Talen Horton-Tucker play basketball. And that's a great way to put it. He throws everyone out of their roles. And so all of a sudden it's kind of like, okay, Sexton feels like he has to have his, and Markkanen doesn't touch the basketball, and John Collins is kind of floating in the ether, not doing anything, because you have a ball dominant player like that, just turning the ball over, missing shots, and whatever value. And he's a high variance offensive player, right? And if a team needs that creation because they got nothing else, it's like, all right, throw the high variance offensive guy out there and to see what Horton Tucker can do tonight. Break glass in case of emergency, throw THT out there, get us something. But Utah doesn't need that. We have a deficit in passing, right? I've mentioned Sexton's passing ability, Clarkson's passing ability. We don't have a whole lot of plus passers on this team, but I don't think we're short of dribble penetration and creation, because unless Horton Tucker is going to be that great of a passer, which he's not doing anything different than the other guys. And then to that point, he's forcing everyone outside of their roles. They're not doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. And yeah, right now, as you say, if Team Money is absolutely on the money, everyone is crushing their specific role. I think it's a great way for us to finish. Friends, thanks for copping in. Salt City Hoops live postcast and beer. Going to finish this porter tonight. And we'll see you for the Pacers game without Halliburton. Love having you here. Love talking to Jazz. Love having a beer with you. Jazz are fun to watch again. I'm Mark. Hit me up on Twitter, Blue Sky, wherever you want to hit me. And we'll talk Jazz whenever you want. All right. Good night, friends.